Fire Away tackles burning questions and hot topics in Canadian employment law, human resources, and dispute resolution. Hosted by Rudner Law, Fire Away is your go-to source for legal insight on the world of work. So whether you are an employee or an employer, a lawyer or an HR pro, let's ignite the conversation and get into today's episode. Here's your host, employment lawyer, mediator, and founder of Rudner Law, Stuart Rudner.
Welcome to episode 93 of Fire Away. And this should be a fun one. And today my guest is retired lawyer, author, and humorist, Marcel Strigberger. Marcel, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Pleasure.
I'm genuinely very excited to talk to you. And like I said before we started recording, I feel like I've known you for pretty well my entire career because I've followed and read your columns and your blog posts and your posts on LinkedIn. And I know you'll always make me laugh, especially when it's a bit of a dull day. So I appreciate everything you do. I've been a fan for years. Now I feel like I get the chance to meet you, which I guess is a perk of having this show.
I'm honored.
So there are a few things. I was trying to think about where to start, to be honest with you. But I guess where I decided to start is your commentary on the practice of law, because a lot of your comments that I've read talk about the drudgery of the practice of law, and I'm going to give an exact quote now. You talk about many lawyers are unhappy to the extent that some would consider becoming Oscar Mayer Wienermobile operators, which I have to admit sounds pretty tempting. But that's a very specific quote. So where did that come from?
I don't know if any lawyers have actually applied for that job, but it's harder to get that post as an Oscar Mayer Wienermobile operator than it is to get into Yale, Yale University. And they only take 12 a year, I think, and they've got to apply, and then that's all they can do. They have to drive the Wienermobile around. And many lawyers are disgruntled. There was a lawyer, I forget his name, who said, law is sort of the opposite of sex. Even when it's good, it's bad. So
this is what I mean about everything that you write. Yeah, I love that because as my kids will tell you, this is not a joke. When they were babies and I would sing them, nursery rhymes. I never knew any real nursery rhymes or songs, so I had my short list of songs that I would sing, including the Oscar Mayer Wiener song. So this is when I read that in your book, that was just perfect. But kidding aside, I mean, you practiced law for what, for over 40 years?
Yeah, short to 43 years.
So you describe yourself as a happily retired lawyer. You talk about the drudgery of law, but was the practice of law really that bad?
It wasn't bad. It was like anything else, good days and bad days. But people have a negative view generally of lawyers. I tell people I'm a lawyer, a humorist, I write humor, and the most common reaction I get is that's an oxymoron. And I think they mean it. There are lawyer jokes, and there's even a joke about lawyer jokes. I forgot the quote about lawyer jokes.
That's okay.
The public. Lawyers don't think they're funny, and the public don't think they're jokes.
I don't think I've heard that one, actually. Well, I was going to ask you this when I asked you about your latest book, but I'll ask you now because I have to admit I haven't gotten through the whole book yet. But early on, you say it's specifically not a book of lawyer jokes. So does that mean you're going to do a book of lawyer jokes later on?
No, there are enough of those around. It's observations about the legal universe, about getting clients or getting them or getting rid of them, difficulties lawyers have, the image lawyers have, judges having judgeitis once they get appointed to the bench, they forget what it's like to be a lawyer, nasty judges, nasty lawyers, and so on. So there are enough joke books around about lawyers.
Fair enough. So, knowing that you have at least one child who became a lawyer, but if you were going to talk to someone now who is thinking about going to law school, what would you tell them?
I've no regrets having practiced law, none whatsoever. It's a noble profession. People may have their own impression of it. Many people do, because there's a glut of lawyers and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to, there's competition and rules change and this happens and no fault comes along for car accident insurance. So they're different, and family law can be dangerous. I've experienced enough of that. So I wouldn't discourage any. My granddaughter wants to be a lawyer. She's just in second year of college. And I'm saying, go ahead. You might be crazy, but go ahead.
Well, I think we all, or at least most of us, recognize it is what you make of it. You can go into law school and do almost anything with a law degree. So
it's versatile.
Yeah, I was convinced I was going to be a criminal lawyer, even all the way through law school. Initially I thought I'd be arguing death row cases until I found out we don't do that in Canada. But I thought I'd be a criminal lawyer until I was, well into my practice and discovered employment law.
Some people actually wanted to be tax lawyers and ended up doing something else. So
when I was in law school, I found our class, you could divide them between the ones who wanted to be sort of corporate or tax lawyers and wanted to go work for the big big firms on Bay Street, or the ones who were all about social justice and wanted to help people make a difference. So those were the two biggest groups that I found when I was in law school.
I was the social justice type, but I don't know if I ever achieved that.
I suspect over 40 years, you probably made a significant contribution.
I tried, but getting money, a settlement, an insurance settlement could be justice, but it's not like getting an innocent person off the gallows, so to speak.
No, that's true, but I mean, it's kind of similar to the conversation I often have with our clients, including just this morning, actually, where I explain you may have been wrongfully dismissed. You're not going to get your job back, and we can't do that, but we'll hopefully get you some compensation for it. And that's, in many cases, all we can do as lawyers is get someone compensation for the wrongs that were done.
And certainly solicitors work. I mean, you're going to do a real estate deal. I never did them, but I'm saying it's not like you come home and your spouse asks you, well, how was your day? You said, I achieved justice. I gave the keys to a house to a buyer. So, and
it's not as glamorous as you might like, but then again, you are still making someone's day if you get them the house that they wanted. So there's a good and bad in every element of the practice.
And then if you mess up, they sue you.
That's true. That's why we have insurance. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but you practiced for a long time and you've seen, I've been practicing 26 years and I've seen a lot of change. You've seen a lot more. But what would you change about the practice of law if you had the ability?
Things go very slowly in litigation. There's got to be a way to speed up the pace. Somebody used to come to my office. They had an accident. They say, how long is this going to take? And I say, well, I point to a maple tree outside, and I say, you see these leaves? They're colored now. It's autumn. They're going to fall off. They'll be covered with snow. Come spring, they'll grow back again. Then they're going to flourish, and then they're going to change colors again. That's going to happen a few times before this case is over. And a few times, clients left me shortly after that, saying, "You're a lousy lawyer. It's going to take too long." But
I've got to steal that from you because I have the same. It's only gotten worse, especially since COVID. I mean, just in the context of wrongful dismissal cases, which of course is a lot of what our firm does. We used to tell people figure a year or two to get to trial. Now we tell them figure at least 2.5, probably 3 or 4. And most recently, the Human Rights Tribunal in Ontario, it was a 5-year time period to get from claim to hearing. So. That's a great one that we could, if we could change.
Yeah, how, I don't know. More judges, but it moves too slowly, and people don't like it. You go to a dentist, you're out of there in 45 minutes. I'm not saying unless it's a television program, a legal case can't take 45 minutes.
No, but that's part of the problem, right? Is everybody watches these things on TV. And they assume that we'll be in my office today and we'll be in, depositions, or as we call them in Canada, examinations for discovery tomorrow, and in trial next week if we don't force a settlement out of them. So that's part of the problem, is the expectations are just completely everyone's misled by what they see on TV and the movies.
I also think lawyers make a lot of money.
That's the other misconception. And look, some do, but a lot of lawyers do not to make a whole lot of money, especially when you consider the hours they put in.
They think lawyers are windbags.
And some are, but a lot of them are not. Here's another thing, and again, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but one of the things that's fascinated me in the last 5 years, since COVID, is you used to talk to lawyers, and especially senior lawyers, and they would say, the practice of law, you got to be in an office. It has to be in the office. Can't work from home, any of that. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit. Everyone had to work from home. And from what I've heard, especially in the larger firms, a lot of those senior partners who insisted that the practice of law had to be done in the office are now quite happy working from their homes and from their cottages and don't want to go back downtown. So I'm curious enough if you had any thoughts on how things have changed over the last 5 years.
Well, if it works, why not? You don't have to be in the office all day. When I was a kid, I never met a lawyer until I was around 11, 12 years old. I didn't know what a lawyer was, but it's not like lawyers don't need offices necessarily. If they can work from home, great. But I wouldn't have been able to do it. I retired before COVID, and the technology would have been too much for me. I mean, I get scared. And I hear the word Zoom, and I hold my ears.
Well, this is going pretty well so far.
I was always a pencil and paper guy. When the sticky came along, the day I discovered a sticky, it became a national holiday. I thought it was the greatest invention, the sticky.
Well, it's funny how things go full circle, because I was working with someone who was trying to help my firm with some organizational techniques. And so they wanted us to put up stickies on a wall. And we are our firm is very techy, and we are paperless. And so they found this app that basically recreates stickies on a wall, but it's all on your computer screen. But it looks like the yellow and purple, pink and blue stickies. So it sort of comes around, and it's the same thing, just looks fancier.
When I started practicing, the staple in an office was an IBM Selectric typewriter. And if you wanted to make a change, you'd have to take white out, almost like nail polish, and white it out. And suddenly the IBM Selectric came out, and there were a few older lawyers in my office. We shared space, and I was the first one to order one of those. The IBM Selectric had an automatic delete function. It had some Correcto paper, and if you wrote the word bananas with two N's, say BANNA, you can just go back a space and delete it. I ordered one. It cost $1,000. Just the typewriter. And the guy came to set it up, and we all gathered, the staff and the older lawyers. I was the youngest, to watch how the demonstration. The guy typed in a word like bananas, and he said, "Watch this. No, you don't need Correcto paper, white out, ointment, whatever." He just backspaced and disappeared. Then he deletes the N, and he puts in whatever he wants to put in. He got the word. And it was like, we were all saying, wow, it was like watching the Wright brothers take off at Kitty Hawk.
I do remember that. I remember those typewriters and how miraculous that was. And you could just not have to start the paper up or the page over again. So I do remember that.
And do you remember in the great library, you'd get a book out, say Ontario Reports or whatever, and some lawyers would pencil in, for example, there was a judgment for the plaintiff in some case. The guy would write, some lawyer would take a pencil, write in, this judgment was appealed and the appeal was allowed, so it was overruled. And you'd open the book, you see a pencil note saying it's no longer valid. So I thought, some trolls could have come along, I suppose, and put the appeal was allowed when it wasn't.
Yeah.
Or the appeal, yeah. So those are the trolls of the day, or the hackers.
not to digress too far, but I remember being in law school, and of course the big thing was getting your hands on a good summary so you could study from the summary. And then I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that some people actually went to the length of creating fake summaries and leaving them around the library, hoping that other students would rely upon those and do badly on their exams.
It sort of sounds familiar, like ChatGPT.
It wasn't a hallucination; it was a deliberate misrepresentation, I suppose. But so let me ask you. I have to admit, I've read two of your books. I haven't read the last one, or the latest one, I should say. Hopefully, it's not the last one. But the latest one is First, Let's Kill the Lawyer Jokes. And I love the title because, and you can tell me if I've got this wrong, I'm assuming it was taken from the Shakespeare quote of First, let's kill the lawyers. And I always love that because everyone assumes that's an anti-lawyer statement, whereas my understanding is, if you read the whole book, you'd understand he's actually commenting on the value of lawyers.
Yeah, well, it was meant that way in Shakespeare. I think it was a character, Dick the Butcher, whatever. I think he's called Dick the Butcher, and there was a concern about knocking off the king, having a revolution, and they figured lawyers would be behind it. So that's why they said, first, let's kill the lawyers, because they didn't want the revolution to take place. But
yeah, and it was basically the lawyers were preventing anarchy, so it was actually a good thing as opposed to let's get rid of the lawyers.
So it's a sort of play on Shakespeare's quote.
Yeah, I like I said, I love that. So tell us about the book.
I happen to have a copy just in front of me. Let's have a look. There's the chapter on the history of lawyers. You don't see lawyers anywhere in history. I think the first time they're mentioned is Shakespeare. I mean, that's the first time I see lawyers mentioned. I don't see any lawyers in the Bible. It's not like Noah was being sued or somebody who helped build the ark and they put a lien against the ark. Construction lien. You've got communication lawyers. Do they get it right or not? Why everybody loves lawyers. Do lawyers unnecessarily complicate simple matters? Yes, no, maybe. And lawyers are lawyers chicken. And things that scare lawyers the most, people may not know it. They're afraid of being sued, afraid of missing deadlines, afraid of not billing enough. So things that lawyers are afraid of. And people are afraid of lawyers. I found I was able to, what happened was I went to Costco, I could say this, we bought some salmon and it looked like little pieces of glass in a canned salmon.
Okay.
And apparently I went back to Costco, they gave me a $50 gift certificate. They took back the can. I kept the sample. I sent a letter to the company who made the salmon. And they said, my wife sent them an email and they told her, that's not glass, they're called struvites and they're natural, they occur in fish. They look like little pieces of glass, but they wouldn't offer her anything. So I said, she said, can you get something at them? So I wrote to them and I said, thank you very much, but I suffered a nervous shock as a result of almost ingesting that. And I wrote at the bottom, Marcel Strigberger, lawyer, advocate. And they sent me a couple of cases of different things and said, okay, he won't start with you. I didn't do that. I figured I'm retired, but let me get my armor on again and see what happens. I'm going to scare these guys.
You can exercise the old muscles. Also, apparently it still works.
Yeah, so people can be afraid of lawyers. I once I wanted to get a hold, this happened a few times, I wanted to get a hold of a doctor and you couldn't, on a case, medical legal, I couldn't get a hold of the doctor, never got back. Or doctors generally don't go back, people will say they called. I'd leave a message saying, I'm calling about this possible malpractice case. And the doctor would get back in 15 minutes. So we do have some, I think we should use it anytime we can.
I got to remember that because, yeah, getting a hold of some doctors is almost impossible. That might be the best way to do it. So I mean, like I said, I love your books because I feel like I'm just reading. I love reading your columns, and then a book is just like a nonstop for me, nonstop laughing. But how long did it take you to write the latest one?
It didn't take that long to write, maybe 6 months to write, but more than that to edit.
Right.
You're never satisfied. You write it, and then you've got to get it better, and you've got to get it better and better. So I'd say over a year, certainly a year and a half.
Right.
And always fun to work on. The editing is more fun. Creativity wasn't too much of a problem.
Right. Now I have to ask, 'cause I noticed that it's the full title is First Let's Kill the Lawyer Jokes, an attorney's serious, I'm gonna get this wrong, an attorney's serious, irreverent look at the legal universe.
Irreverent serious look. You got it flipped over.
Oh, all right, I got it wrong. I guess I wrote it down wrong. So I love the title, but I ask because attorney is a distinctly American term. And you, as far as I know, are a Canadian lawyer. So was that just to try to appease the Americans and hopefully sell more books in the States?
No, I thought of it, not necessarily, because I've got lawyer in the main title. I didn't say a lawyer, so I didn't want to use the same word twice.
Yeah, you're right. It flows better. Yeah. But that's usually for me. It's always a tip off. I know I'm talking to an American when they refer to me as an attorney.
Yeah. They refer to us. They don't know what barrister and solicitor means. Many of them.
No, you're right. They don't. Well, actually, I guess most Canadians probably don't either, but at least lawyers here too. And now, of course, when you file court forms, you don't have to put solicitors for the plaintiff or defendant anymore. You're just lawyers for the defendant or the plaintiff. So
I didn't know that. I'm missing all that in retirement.
This is the excitement that you're missing out on. They've changed solicitors to lawyers. That's the extent of the change so far to our civil litigation system. So I was also, other than writing books, I mean, now that you are retired, how do you spend your days?
I'm writing. I've got a column with the Law 360, formerly the Lawyers Daily. I've got a column with the American Bar Association Journal. A column with them. I write. I'm thinking about another book number 5. That's what I do most of the time, at least mornings, afternoon. I try to keep sane. I don't listen to the news.
I don't blame you.
No.
You may not want to disclose this, but I was curious about what you're thinking about writing the next book about.
Next book about humor.
Isn't that's all your books?
They may be humorous books about something, birth, death, and other trivialities about birth and death, and what's in between. Lawyers, dentists, war, peace, money, happiness. And the other one, Putin on the Orient Express, is an irreverent look at travel. Boomers, Zoomers, and other Humours is a look at aging, getting older. And First Let's Kill the Lawyer Jokes, of course, is about the law, the legal universe. But I'd like to write one about humor because people have misconceptions of humor and they think it's not serious, but it's very serious. It was found, a Harvard study, that CEOs prefer people with a sense of humor. It just lightens the mood. It dissolves toxicity. People feel better, increases morale, wellness. So humor is important, but people often don't think it's serious. I remember I had lunch with a judge, Court of Appeal judge, and he was saying when you get appointed to the bench, they say, don't use humor because people will think you're not taking their case seriously. So they're told, be careful with humor. And really the opposite is true. Herb Kelleher was a former CEO of Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines was on top of the heap as far as profit for many years, but he incorporated humor throughout. When you'd fly with Southwest, they'd tell you jokes along the way. They'd announce jokes. Somebody lost their luggage once on the airline. Herb Kelleher, the CEO, delivered the lost luggage. They found it to the person personally. They said, "I'm CEO of Southwest Airlines. Here's your lost bag." And they'd say, "Yeah, right." No, it's me.
That's the way it should be done, and especially within a law firm. As I mentioned before, I had to ask you about this because just fortuitously, I saw your post on LinkedIn this morning, all about Ken Dryden, who sadly, passed away just very recently, and you went to law school with him. So, love to hear any stories or anything you can share about what Ken Dryden was like back in law school days.
He was in my class for a couple of years. And the amazing thing is he went through law school and passed well, did a good job at it, even though he was away half the time, because the Canadians, it's not like the Habs played only home games. They were away, he was with them. But he would borrow people's notes. And he asked me for my notes once. And then he took a look, they were illegible. So help him. He did something I've never seen anybody do. He said, "Can you lend me some pieces of paper?" And blank paper, because he would sit for the lecture, he'd take notes. And I gave him a few sheets. About a week later, he was out of town. He comes back, and I'm sitting in the library. Suddenly, he dumps a heap of blank sheets on my desk. He said, "Here you go. Thank you very much." And whoever returns paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he would borrow people's notes, other classmates. We had a small class of around 15, 20 at McGill that year. He'd borrow the notes, and he did well, even though there were no computers in those days, no laptops, no Google, no chat GPT. We were talking a pen and paper, pencil and paper. It was interesting. I'm saying this in a good way, not in a derogatory way. But we didn't have cell phones in those days. So there was a room in the law school basement, some office. When the person wasn't there, we'd sneak in. If you wanted to use the phone, save a dime, get in there and sort of line up, and he'd join us in the line. And we joke about it, say, you're probably making $10 million as a goalie for Canadians, And he laughed. We had a laugh. We did it in good spirits, but I'm saying he lined up with the rest of us to use the free phone.
Right.
Yeah.
I think most of us find law school challenging enough. I can't even imagine trying to go through it while playing professional hockey at the same time.
No, he was away half the time. He was a gentleman. He never cursed or swore, be it we talk about a course or a professor, or we talk about other players, opposing players, some goons on some of the other teams.
Right.
There was a story about him once. The year he won the Stanley Cup, the first one against Boston, some guy one of the forwards charged at him, Ken Dryden, and he would have hit the net with his head, the goalpost. They didn't have helmets in those days.
Yeah.
Ken sort of stopped the guy from getting his head hit, ramming his head into the post. But the guy was angry nonetheless, because he thought Dryden was going to twist his neck or whatever. And Dryden said, even though Dryden caught the guy, he said, "I'm sorry" to the player. And the guy just sort of dissolved like sugar, saying the match that, I was angry, I was going to belt him. And he says, "I'm sorry." So he was a perfect gentleman, a very likable guy, quiet, never, never abrasive. Never swore, never, and brilliant. He was able to get through the law school, whatever, missing all those classes.
That's incredible. A lot of people who know me know that my son's a goalie and plays junior hockey, and we were recently just debating whether he could handle undergraduate, while still playing junior hockey. And even that was a concern. So I can't imagine law school playing for the Montreal Canadiens at the same time and excelling like he apparently did. It's truly amazing. Yeah. As I always say, I feel like this is always the case, the time just flies by. So I'll wrap things up. Before we do, Marcel, first of all, I really appreciate you joining us. I know you've got your books, you've got your columns. I think you also do some appearances every now and then. So if people want to find you, what's the best way for them to look you up?
The website, marcelshumour.com, MARCELS, no apostrophe, HUMOUR.com or HUMOR. If you
got the American spelling as well?
Yeah, I've covered both for an extra $10.
Smart. Sure. That is very smart. I remember, well, I don't do labor law, but when I was looking at websites, I almost got, LABOR just to be safe. So, well, listen, Marcel, thank you very much again for being a guest on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stuart.
That's a wrap for this episode. So I want to thank Marcel Strigberger for being my guest and entertaining me and all of us for about a half an hour. I want to thank Mark and our production team for putting the show together as always. Of course, thank you for watching or listening. Please subscribe and like our podcast and our YouTube channel. You'll get notifications on future shows. And to quote my favorite hockey broadcaster, pleasure was all ours.
At Rudner Law, we want people to treat their employment relationships as legal relationships and make informed decisions rather than assumptions. Keep up to date on Canadian employment law issues by following us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, liking our Facebook page, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and signing up for our newsletter. Past episodes can be found on YouTube, on our website, and archived on Facebook. And if you like our page or subscribe to our channel, you will receive notifications when the episodes are live. As we always say, none of that replaces legal advice tailored to your specific circumstances. If you think you might need an employment lawyer, you probably do. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us.